Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, the Senate proposes new taxes. Also, the V-Team takes a look for the missing media. And Speaker Mike Hubbard is discovered to have 2 spies within the Attorney General's office. What? Is one Judas not enough? We need 2? All this and much, much more coming up next on The V.
The Voice of Alabama Politics, with your host, Bill Brett, and the V-Team with Claire Austin, Susan Britt, Jack Campbell, Baron Coleman, Charlana Spencer, and special reports with Jonathan Barbie. Now, the #1 political show in Alabama, The V.
Welcome to the Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V-Team. Welcome all.
Good day.
Hey, y'all.
We got the memo to wear blue
We
today.
did. Oh, and you've even got on a blue shirt.
Yeah, and yellow tie and all that. Everybody's blue.
We're blue.
Blue. Unlike the legislature, which is in the red. One of the most disturbing things that has come up in the last several weeks has been this revelation that a special agent working for the Attorney General's office has been found to have colluded with Sonny Reagan, who is a Deputy Assistant Attorney General, to undermine the Lee County grand jury that indicted Mike Hubbard. These are some serious allegations made by the state's top cop. He says that this man cheated, lied, and helped Sonny Reagan to try to undermine that grand jury. Susan, serious allegations.
Serious allegations when the Attorney General tells an employee, I cannot trust you. I cannot trust you as an employee. I cannot trust you with the law. You just can't be trusted. That's some pretty serious allegations. And it came out in this letter saying that Sisson had not only assisted Sonny Reagan in this, but he also sought outside counsel in the things that are going on in the Hubbard case through emails that they found, kept Sonny Reagan updated even after he had left the Attorney General, and participated in taping or attempting to tape the acting Attorney General.
Have you ever, Claire, heard anything like this before?
Egregious, as you all know. I mean, This is over the top.
Yeah.
I mean, the Attorney General's done the right thing. Get rid of both of them. And if they find any more, they better get rid of them, because there's one thing they're supposed to do over there is uphold the rule of law. And if you've got people, snakes in the house over there, you got to get rid of them.
I mean, Baron, have you ever heard of anybody taping an acting Attorney General surreptitiously?
No, I really haven't. I mean, this is kind of unprecedented. And there was a memo that went down from Luther Strange referenced in some of these news articles, late December, January or so, 2012, 2013, where I guess he kind of foreshadowed that this might be a problem in the future. It tells you something about what was going on at the Attorney General's office, that he felt it necessary to send a memo down saying, hey, no surreptitious recording of each other in the office, guys. Knock it off. I mean, this whole thing, it's sort of a misty, foggy cloud of suspicion over there. I mean, it's bizarre.
Well, it's crazy because really, if you start looking at it, you know, one of the things that came out in some recent filings is that Sonny Reagan, who we know shares attorney with Moore, Representative Moore. He shared Bill Baxley and Rob Riley as attorneys. Rob Riley also represents Hubbard. We now find that Sonny Reagan, when he went before the grand jury, he was there because Hubbard's chief of staff, Josh Blades, mentioned him in the grand jury. And now we know, if you go back to 2012, Josh Blades is in emails between Hubbard and the Rileys mentioning that he's giving them information about the grand jury. I mean, this is a convoluted mess.
Absolutely. And in that email, it says a contact in the AG's office, one of your former employees. So that tells us right there who it was. Plus, another thing Sisson is on the box for here is he knew about these attorney arrangements. He knew about Baxley. He knew about Hubbard and never said a word to anybody.
And see, that should have raised eyebrows right then when they all started using the same lawyers. I'm sorry, that should have been a real quick clue to anybody involved in this process, even the AG's office, for them to share these lawyers like this.
Well, you know,
that's very uncommon.
They have been going after, I mean, this, like we've said before, is like a mafia trial or a drug kingpin trial. They are going after the prosecution from the inside. Now, look, if Mike is so innocent, and he is just, he's innocent as the newborn snow, or newborn baby.
They wouldn't be using these tactics.
Why would they be using those tactics?
They wouldn't.
I mean, Barron, you've handled criminal defense cases before. They are going to extraordinary lengths to try to derail justice.
Absolutely. I mean, their goal, it's clear, their entire defense is to make Matt Hart and Van Davis look like bad guys, like they're doing improper things, that somehow, it's to confuse and cloud the issue. I do believe there's some poisoning of the well. They're trying to poison the jury pool over in Lee County. Their hometown newspaper has basically become a cheerleading megaphone for Mike Hubbard. It's a very bizarre set of circumstances. They're not even defending the merits of the case.
Right.
I mean, go back to the press conference, the pep rally, right after he was indicted. Very early on, they asked him, I don't remember if it was Chuck Dean or John Archibald, somebody from the news asked Mark White, did he do what the indictment said he did? Are you saying he did it, it's just not illegal? And Mark White said, yes, that's what we're saying.
Yeah, well, that's
so
always,
they've admitted the facts.
Yeah, they don't have a problem with the facts, but they're really going after the prosecution. Interestingly enough, this story on Sisson was a cop with the Montgomery PD for 20 years and rose, as he put it to him in his own words, the lowly position of corporal, yet somebody in the AG's office made him a chief investigator once upon a time.
They did, and his name was Troy King.
This was also around the time when Troy King was being investigated by Matt Hart. I wonder if there's any connection. Nobody knows, right? But he comes in, he's an investigator, chief investigator, and then when Luther Strange comes in, he's out. He's just back to an agent. Claire, there could be some resentment there, couldn't there?
I would think so.
There could be. Look, I like Troy King. I thought he did an okay job as Attorney General. There were some problems that people didn't like him, this reason or the other. But he has kind of reared his head again here lately and made some public comments about Matt Hart. And I don't know if he's trying to aid Mike Hubbard or if he's trying to use this as an opportunity to go after an old nemesis, Matt Hart. And is Sisson caught up in the middle of that fight?
Right.
Could it be he's fighting that fight?
I mean, Susan.
But that's inappropriate. I mean, the former AG should not be doing that.
Well, and
no
he's
question.
interjected himself improperly into this thing several times. I mean, Susan, what he kept saying about Sisson kept saying about Troy King?
It was basically a love fest like the one between Mike Hubbard and Bob Riley in those emails. The honorable, the great, the wonderful, and he chose me.
Barron, when did men start talking about each other
I was
that
just
way?
thinking that same thing. I've probably sent 1 million emails. I've never glowed about another man that way. I mean, it's just...
Well, just for
And
the record.
don't start, okay?
And it's not just once; it's repeatedly throughout
I
this
mean,
hundreds
if
of
you've had too many
pages.
beers, I guess I love you, man, can work, but not in an email.
We've all had those nights, but...
That's just overflowing and trying to overcompensate, just like you said. Their whole game is to discredit the investigation by the U.S. attorneys. By the Attorney General's office and everybody that's appointed.
We're going to have to leave it there. I love you, man.
Yeah, thank you.
You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
The V is sponsored by Spot On Strategies Group.
It's time to take a road trip. In Alabama, the road and the restaurants are calling. We've elevated barbecue to an art form, a meat masterpiece. Fine dining your thing? National awards are putting us on the map. Because everything's fresh and local. And if you like your dinner with a view, well, you can't beat this. Alabama has a road trip with your name on it. Which one you gonna take?
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics, where we welcome Jack Campbell.
Good morning and thank you.
Good day.
Claire?
Glad to have you.
Where's Eva Braun?
He's just got a little marine high and tight. I'm checking it out. I kind of had to do a
Just the
little feeling.
reserves look.
Yeah, it's a different look for him.
Yeah.
Hair Coleman,
Yeah.
something like that. Anyway,
We still love you, man.
yes, we do.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, y'all don't start this male love fest on me
I
again.
think it's going to be. I think it's trend setting. I think that's what it is. Trend setting.
Mike Hubbard's going to have it next week.
Mike Hubbard will have it when they delouse him to go to prison.
Okay, we better move on to the
Okay.
story. The Paul Harvey arrest. The stories that they're not covering. How about that?
Well, we published that story on Gene Sisson and how he was accused of undermining the Lee County grand jury. And just to help out, we sent that story to every person in the media with the accompanying documentation. The documentation that was issued from the Attorney General's office. We gave it to him.
Spoon fed him.
Spoon fed. And what did we get? Crickets. Jack, what's with the media?
All I can say is the Kool-Aid they're brewing over there in the Speaker's office must be more addictive than catnip. I mean, these guys have bought in to his bogus tales and, oh, I'm the victim, I didn't do any of this. They have all bought into it. Nobody wants to report this except you and a few other reporters that have been brave enough to step out.
Did they already forget those exchange of emails that were in black and white?
I mean, really.
85 email.
There were a couple of people that followed up. Brian Lyman came up with a pretty quick story
Yeah, he
after
did,
you
he
put
did,
yours
he
up.
did.
And Jotham Eagle has done a good job. I would
And
say.
Ryan Lyman actually cited you and said story first broken by the
That's a
Alabama
first,
Political Reporter.
actually, over there.
AL.com, Mike Kayson's story. Mike's a nice guy. I'm sure he's a great guy, great reporter. But, I mean, it read like an apology piece for the defense. And it led with Gene Sisson's denial, and you had to read 13 paragraphs down to even find out what the allegation was.
Well, the thing with Mike, and I like him too, but he thinks if he does a negative story on them, they're going to cut off his access to the speaker.
Then get
well,
over
who cares?
yourself.
Well, really, I mean, they cut off our access almost 3 years ago and hadn't heard us a bit.
Right.
Right.
Just because they won't send you their press releases, unless you're just wanting to, rewrite press releases, you don't need
Well,
them.
it's like the Republicans that are in the House that have not been brave enough to offer someone else as speaker or to go to Mike privately and say, look, Mike, you're hurting the party, you're hurting our cause, you're hurting the agenda. You need to step aside until this is resolved. It's the same thing. Nobody has the courage, and I can't figure it out for the life of me.
Well, I will say in the last month, because I do spend a lot of time at the State House when they're in session every day, I have seen Republicans kind of bubbling up. They've gotten tired of it. They're just trying to get through this session.
Well, I think, the media's job is to hold public officials accountable.
Absolutely.
I mean, and if we're not holding them accountable, then we're not doing our job. We're not there to be their stenographers. I mean, you guys do a great job on your radio show. I mean, what do you hear? I mean, what's happening in the radio community?
Well, I'll tell you that our listeners are outraged by the conduct of Mike Hubbard and his cohorts, and frankly, for the House of Representatives for putting him back in there. Maybe one or two people out of the dozens or hundreds we've talked to, maybe one or two has been supportive of Mike Hubbard and saying that he's getting a raw deal or he'll survive this. But even the ones that say that he'll survive it because corruption is the norm. That's the status quo.
Well, it's just we cannot accept, when the Republicans came in, and I believe there's some very good ones because I voted for them. The Republicans came in, they said they're going to clean up the mess. That hasn't happened. But Claire, are you getting the sense that now they've seen the light and they really want to clean things up?
I think, the Senate's very different. That's a whole different deal, and I think they're on the right direction. But in the House, I think you had so many members that were elected 4 years ago in 2010 that were just told what to do, and you've got a lot of new members this time, and they were a little bit nervous to go against the flow. But underneath their breath and in the halls, in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th floors, people are talking about it, and they know that's why the Speaker supposedly wants to come back for a special session, because he's not going to have a lot of friends after they go out.
Right.
Because he's got a big trial looming in October.
Yeah, that trial is just right down the road. But this is why it's important for the media to get it right, because no matter, people read papers, they listen to radio, they watch television. If the media is not doing their job, then people are ill-informed, and they don't know that Mike Hubbard is accused of these actions. I mean, Jack, I think people like Archibald and them, they're not so afraid anymore, but it still seems like they're
But how many
timid.
people read newspapers anymore? That's one of the problems. Is readership is way down. That's why you have all these online publications, because people don't subscribe anymore. And you get, what, 7 seconds on the nightly news? People are not, they're not misinformed. They're just not informed at all.
Because the average person that gathers news, they're going to watch the TV. And that, like you said, it's,
it's
30 seconds. Other than
fast
in
and
radio, I
furious.
think y'all got a lot going on there. But it's been interesting. I'll tell you, this show and y'all's online news, I can't tell you in the last month how many people have said, sure do like watching y'all's show on Sunday or watching on the YouTube. Y'all go do it, but don't tell anybody I said anything.
Right, well,
people over at the State House, all across the state, from Huntsville to Florence to Mobile, Dothan, they're watching this TV show. They watch it on YouTube, and I know that they appreciate the stories y'all write and the things that we talk about.
Well, and we hear that too. It was funny. We were in the Atala Walmart parking lot, which might as well be out
I wouldn't have told anybody that.
middle of nowhere.
That's in Etowah County,
That's
by the
in
way.
Etowah County, God's country up there, Jack, if you didn't know that. And a gentleman stopped me and Susan and said, I watch the show every Sunday. I want to appreciate what y'all do. And just kept going, kept pushing his cart. It was amazing. But I think we're all doing what we're supposed to be doing, and that's holding.
Despite all attempts to have us removed.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I had some upset viewers, and they stopped me in Publix. Well, I haven't seen y'all on TV the last 2 Sundays.
Well, we are back on in Montgomery now.
Right.
We're back on in Montgomery. We're still on the cable networks, but we're back on ABC 32 here in Montgomery. Back
And
at our
back up
usual
in
time.
Huntsville, too.
Good.
Huntsville keeps coming and going. We'll see how it goes with Huntsville. But they've done a lot to try to put us out of
Where
business.
are you, Mobile?
But yeah, we'd like to be in Mobile, but we're on the charter cable channels on Channel 80, and that's good enough. But listen, we just keep clawing back, telling the truth, talking it up, and people will get it. All right, well, we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
In 1977, an 8-year-old boy picked up the game of golf from his father. The odds of that same boy then making it to the US and European Pro Golf Tours, 1 in 7 million. The odds of the Big Easy winning the US Open twice, 1 in 1.2 billion. The odds of him having a child diagnosed with autism, 1 in 88. Ernie Els encourages you to learn the signs of autism.
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. Mark White and his legal team, they're the lead attorneys for Mike Hubbard in his criminal trial, criminal defense case. They have filed a lawsuit against the Department of Justice demanding any documentation in the personnel file of Matt Hart that may have been turned over to the Office of Personal Responsibility. Claire, this is a fishing trip of extraordinary proportions, isn't it?
I mean, it's almost laughable. It's egregious. I mean, once again, we've been talking about how they're trying to tear apart the defense out of the Attorney General's office. And here, and I believe is all these things that if they could have been in his file, were surreptitiously put there by Sonny Reagan and Gene Sisson, the inside lubers
Yeah,
for
well,
them.
they did do that in the Attorney General's office.
Well, yeah, there are two files. Matt Hart has worked for the feds. He's worked for the state.
Right.
In the state file, those were put there by Gene Sisson and Sonny Reagan, and that's what they want to get. What they're going after here in this White Arnold Dowd lawsuit against DOJ is his federal personnel file, any complaints that were filed against him there. They can have absolutely nothing to do whatsoever in any circumstance, in any way, with the prosecution of Mike Hubbard, because that happened before he even worked at the Attorney General's office.
It's
so
not
that's
pertinent.
obviously a smear campaign that's going to be run in the media.
Right.
They're shameless.
I mean,
They're shameless.
Jack,
It's like somebody said, fishing expedition. Problem is, they don't have a boat or any bait. I mean, what are they going to do? What he did years ago?
It's desperate
anybody
tactics.
that goes after folks, somebody's going to complain about them at some point via letter, phone call, whatever. I mean,
and the way the Office of Personal Responsibility works is if a complaint is filed, the Department of Justice, that department investigates that complaint, and if there's a criminal activity, they make it known. I mean, they prosecute them. I mean, that's what they do. This is like, cops that go after cops. I mean, the only way you get ahead is if you bag some bad cops.
I mean, we all know lawyers love to embellish things, but Mark White is the king of diversion. I mean, anything to take the eye off the ball of this case, which is the corruption case against Mike Hubbard, where he goes down these rabbit trails trying to delay justice.
Well,
it's shameful.
But he's trying to poison the pool, the jury pool. That's what he's trying to do, discredit Matt.
Well, White
which is crazy.
White's a lot like Hubbard. He's a thug and a bully. I mean, these are bullying, thuggish tactics. They trying to smear
Chicago-style mafia politics is what you call it, I believe, correct?
Yeah, amazing. You know something we didn't expect to happen this week is Coach Pat Dye came out and chose sides. It was pretty outstanding, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Being a War Eagle, I'm
Pat Dye has chosen which of his plans he supports. He looked at the governor's tax raise plan, Mike Hubbard's tax raise Porch Creek monopoly plan, and he looked at Del Marsh's plan, which doesn't raise taxes and gives gambling both to the Porch Creek Indians via a compact as well as 4 different racetracks around town. And he sides with Senator Del Marsh over Mike Hubbard and the governor.
Which I think is interesting. That sends a very strong signal to Mike Hubbard.
Pat Dye and Mike Hubbard have been allies for a long time.
They were business partners.
They were business partners, exactly right.
Well, even a good coach from Auburn can figure out who's got the best plan. It's Del Marsh's.
Well, personally, who cares what he thinks? But there are
a lot of people who do.
Nick Saban may.
I know they do.
Nick Saban may come out for Del Marsh's plan. That would be the coup.
If Nick Saban comes out for it, it passes. I'm telling you, baby, they'll roll.
That'd be an unholy alliance, wouldn't it?
If Nick Saban says, vote for Marsh's plan, they're going to line up. Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
We love our football in Alabama. Coaches are important. They carry a big stick.
Yeah, these guys are the rock stars of Alabama. I mean,
next to some NASCAR drivers.
Well, yeah, but I mean, giving a NASCAR driver an 888 or one of these other 8s, I'll take Pat Dye or Gene. What's the other?
Saban.
It's Nick Saban.
Nick Saban.
Saban, the Saban.
Not Gene.
S-A-B-A-N.
Gene was another guy. Okay.
Stallings, that's who you were thinking.
Yes, that's it.
Fine, man.
Well, and the thing is, truthfully, that Coach Dye was saying is that, an old coach can even come out and talk about budget issues if he sees a solution. But what we have in the House and Senate, their solution is this austerity budget, but they're also now going to tack on about $150 million in revenue enhancement or fees, and then there's another $100 million that's going to be sort of this secret fund, where they tax you without you knowing. I mean,
they're pulling part of the use tax, I'm hearing, is what they want to do. Yeah. They want to pull part of the use tax out of the education trust fund, put it over in the general fund. That'll steal about $100 million from education and give it to prisons and Medicaid. So that's step one. Step two is to allow all these agencies to raise fees without any legislative oversight. Didn't they just throw a big fit about this when Aaliyah tried to do it with driver's license fees?
Well, I thought they said they can only do it every 5 years.
Well, it doesn't matter. They're allowing them to do it with no legislative oversight.
Well, some of them can already do it.
This provides a lot of low-hanging fruit in 3 or 4 years when these guys run for re-election. The same guys who promised not to raise taxes, who attacked every challenger because the challenger was being accused, they'll raise taxes if they're elected. Guess what? The ones who are elected are not for the taxes.
Right. It's these guys have been around for a long time that are pushing the taxes through, and I think part of that is they feel safe.
Right, and a lot of them aren't running again in another 4 years, too.
Well, yeah. I mean, real quickly, we don't have very much time, but Senator Dial has suggested combining the budget. He has a measure out there that would just do that. I don't think that's real popular. I mean, a lot of our senators like it, but I don't think the public's going to buy that.
Go tell the teachers that are coming out of their own pocket for school supplies. Go tell the kids who hadn't had a new textbook in 10 years. Go tell the teachers who hadn't had a pay raise in 9 years that you're going to pull another $100, $200, $300 million out of education to balance prisons and Medicaid deficiencies. You're taking classroom money and sending it to prisons. You talk about low-hanging fruit in 4 years.
I mean, Senator Dial's a smart man, general. I like him a lot. But I mean, this combination of budget will never go past the people, I don't
they
think.
floated this back and forth, y'all, off and on for the last 6 years, and I just don't. There are other states that have one budget, but I just don't think we're ready for that in Alabama yet.
There are a few incumbents whose jobs were forfeited because they supported the Accountability Act, which took $1,000 out of every classroom. Try this on for size.
Yeah.
Well, I think these newly elected freshmen are not going to be interested in passing these
One
taxes.
of the things they don't understand is when they talk about earmarks, we got only about 30 seconds. Our earmarks, Barron, they're not like federal earmarks at all.
When you hear earmark, you think of Ted Stevens' Bridge to Nowhere.
Right.
Funding some butterfly study in Iowa. That's a federal earmark. In state earmark, we don't trust you, legislature, to spend the money we want you to, so we're telling you have to spend it on this program. You have to spend it on this agency. And that's what the earmarks are in Alabama.
And we're going to have to leave it right there. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You can catch us every day at alreporter.com and every Sunday on TV stations throughout the state, also on YouTube. Thank you for watching and have a great Sunday.